If you have health insurance, you might be able to see a personal dietitian for $0 out of pocket. Nourish connects you with a dietitian that fits your needs, covered by your insurance. Nourish accepts hundreds of insurance plans, and 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Meet with your dietitian online and message them anytime through the Nourish app. With hundreds of 5-star reviews from real patients, you know you're in good hands. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you spend the year after graduating college gracelessly bouncing from embarrassing episode to even more embarrassing episode? Did you have the bank you worked for direct deposit your paycheck advances up your nose? Did you stalk a young female doctor with whom you went on one date for the better part of a year, despite no signs of reciprocation? If so, you may have just found yourself in the Unkind Rewind, where we revisited the film that incurred the Brat Pack label Andrew McCarthy insists ruined his life, St. Elmo's Fire.
Thrill me.
I'm gonna name you Kodo. You get a name too, Podo.
I got good news and bad news, girls. The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
You too? You got a boner too? Blue Steel.
Greetings from the North Star State, where I, Josh Dugan, have been desperately trying to hide my girdle while getting felt up by Rob Lowe. Coming to us from the city we can only assume Billy Hicks conquered after hopping on that bus is my co-host Sean McGrath. Sean, did you find the necktie around the head to be your new kink?
Yeah, you know what? Certainly that. Certainly, I think also Josh and I have been friends a long time, which means that we have very jocularly dunked each other's heads in toilets for laughs.
Yeah.
Because we're friends. And that's what friends do, apparently.
Absolutely.
I can see the bruising on your forehead.
Yeah, it never went away. Well, that might be a fresh one.
Joining us this time around is our special guest, who we can only assume has put in a pretty massive custom neon light order since watching this week's film, Chelsea Cain. Thanks for gracing us with your presence, Chelsea.
Hello, fellas. Nice to be here.
Big pop art as well as neon, or...
No, like, honestly, I'm not a fan of, like, the weird murals that are going on in this movie.
And there are weird murals.
But definitely the spelled out, like, pink neon. I remember as a kid loving that, and I still love it.
So you're not getting a Billy Idol mural painted on your wall?
No, in that particular kind of 80s, right? Kind of like monochromatic, like, no, like filtered. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I feel like, they made some bad choices with murals.
The problem, too, with that mural is that it is repossessable.
Yes, right, it is. It's along with everything else.
It's not just furniture, guys.
Yeah, right, which means that she bought that mural on credit.
Yeah.
Like, consider that.
And then they were like, we're coming in for our mural. We want it back. It can easily be resold.
Yeah, to someone else on credit.
Oh, Lord.
Chelsea, why don't you tell the listener who wrecked their rich friend's car and didn't listen to last week's Q's and T's installment a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I am an author. I'm mostly known for my thrillers. So I've published 6 New York Times bestselling thrillers about a sort of twisted love story between a cop and a serial killer. So I'm very prepared to discuss this film.
Twisted love.
And then, yes, like several other projects, a lot of comic books, a couple Eisner nominated comic books. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, I totally biffed it last week and failed to ask you if you have anything cooking.
I do. Yeah, an anthology. And also, I wrote a movie.
Nice.
That we're filming in the next couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's exciting.
It's still in
a
prep.
low budget. But no, it's gone into production. We've started filming, and we will be filming more. So it's called The Bend. So keep your eye out for that, and however long it takes to edit.
Sure. So this is an indie?
Yeah.
Okay. Where can listeners find you?
Like literally?
Well, we're not out to dox you.
We don't need your 20.
But like social media, website, etc.
Oh, sure. I'm on all the socials. Even the other, like the random socials.
Is it one universal handle?
I'm Chelsea Cain again on Instagram because my first Chelsea Cain got hacked. And I don't even I should know that. I just have links. What you can do is you can go to my website, chelseacain.com, and there are little buttons that will get you to most of my socials.
Right on. And it's Cain, Cain, correct?
It is, yeah, like the bad brother in the Bible.
As I mentioned last week, I've seen this film quite a few times and had seen it a few months ago. Sean, your past with St. Elmo's Fire was limited but pretty specific.
Very.
How do you feel like your standout memory of the film held up?
I don't know how everybody doesn't have that standout memory. There's a audible snapping noise to her underwear, Mare Winningham's underwear. As I said last time, this was a high school watch, definitely rented from the video store. May have been with a friend, may have been solo. It certainly was a movie that still kind of existed in those banner years of the 80s. It's almost like a continuance of kind of the John Hughes world in some respects. Like John Hughes is very high school, right?
Yeah.
And Schumacher just kind of feels like he's extrapolated that Hughes world a little bit to see what these people are like post-college as young adults.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I have just the one watch decades ago, and then this was my first revisit in that time.
Chelsea, you thought it had been since you saw this in the theater a couple times, maybe?
Oh, yeah, so I was probably 12, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe twice in the theater, and not since then. Because I really thought there's a reason I haven't seen it since then, right?
Sure. Well, we'll dig into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it maybe might not hold up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So jumping right into the clips from your pre-interview, we asked you what you remembered the plot of the film being.
All right, so I have not seen it since it played in the theaters.
Okay.
I was a fan of the so-called Brat Pack, right? Mm-hmm. Went to see it. It was interesting to me because it was all of these characters I knew as playing high school characters, right? Who are now playing young adults. So that felt a little bit scandalous, right? I believe that it takes place in Washington, D.C. Could be totally wrong. I know for a fact that Demi Moore has this amazing red shawl. And I remember that she had this neon sign in her apartment. I remember that she had this cocaine problem that becomes, that her friends have to address. They've got this great Jeep they'll ride around. And at the bar, St. Elmo's Fire is the name of the bar where they all hang out. I had a huge crush on Andrew McCarthy. There are Rob Lowe girls and Andrew McCarthy girls. And they're probably also, we can probably make the same distinction with men, right? But it's where does your sexual attraction land? Your
sure.
kind of template. And mine was very much Andrew McCarthy. Hey, I just want to say I had perfect recall of that movie, it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the red shawl came up, I was like, ding, ding, ding. 10 points Chelsea's way.
Yeah, my bingo card was full.
So did the Brat Pack's transition to playing young adults read any differently to you now than it did to your 12 or 13-year-old self?
I think it made me less anxious, right? So I was able to maybe enjoy more of their performances. I thought their performances were pretty good. It definitely reinforced my childhood crush of Andrew McCarthy.
Okay.
Who I thought was wonderful in this. I thought they were all good. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
What's the McCarthyism that kind of resonates with you, Chelsea? Like, what is it about his? Is it kind of his soft voice? Is it those eyes? Like, what is it actually that resonates with you?
One, I think he's good. Like he's good in these movies. Like in a way, like he's,
like he's good as an actor.
Yes, he's doing something in terms of like what is going on. You can see something going on behind his eyes, and it's a little bit of suffering, and that is what makes him attractive. His eyes are kind of just like a little teary. There's just this little bit of suffering, of longing, of vulnerability, right? There's a great deal of vulnerability. And again, his like soft chin, like there's something that makes him, he's not threatening, right? Like he's, like a nice guy. Just the way that even after, like the way they kind of resolve that love triangle is being like, well, like, let's all be friends. Okay. Like, he's not going to be a problem. Like, he's a nice guy. And you also kind of want to take care of him.
Sure.
Well, he wrote the meaning of life too. Like maybe you sensed an idea, like a kinship with his writing. He had some Tiki Tac awards on a makeshift mantle.
Yeah.
He did, I believe, pen the meaning of life for a newspaper.
Like, I think that is all dog whistles for sensitive.
Sure.
Right? He's a sensitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was kind of his brand, always.
Yeah. As opposed to literally every other male character in this film.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah.
None of whom could be confused with being sensitive.
How did his hiding of his friends' affairs hit you this time? Were you okay with that, or did you feel like, oh, he really could have let this woman that he loves and is pining for know that she's being cheated on incessantly?
It's fine with it.
Okay. Because he got thrown to the ground at a party?
Because, it is, again, like it's demonstrating this dramatic struggle for his character in terms of loyalty, right, within this group. Like, who's he loyal to of these two people? And it's complicated by the fact that he, has this like unrequited at that time, like love for this woman. And
yeah, it's a weird.
I don't mind that. Is like narratively, I would mind that in real life, but narratively, I was fine with it.
Yeah, I would say in real life, it's a real compromising of the code to protect your buddy who's having affairs, but also bang his ex-girlfriend on the night they break up.
Right. Not even like I wouldn't even call her an ex-girlfriend at that point. Estranged.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, she's still got stuff at the apartment, right?
Yeah.
At their Nike branded office apartment.
Yeah, right. These apartments.
Just hanging out at Wyden and Kennedy, living as a young couple. Okay.
And all of these people, like they're literally, right, they're all 24. Like
if not younger. Some of them are 22 and 3. Yeah.
No. I mean, they're playing characters who are 24.
No, that's what I'm saying. Even some of the characters are 22 and 23.
Yeah, because there was a line that Demi Moore had that was like 6 months ago, I was in college or something, and like...
They jump ahead from graduation 3 months.
So this is what I got wrong then, because I was thinking they were young lawyers. Because Georgetown to me, like always, like...
Law school, sure.
Equated law school, even somehow at 12. And so... But right, they just have undergraduate degrees. Yeah, so they're 22, which is, crazy, some of these apartments. It's much more reasonable to, like, be waiting tables, like the stalker, Emilio Estevez.
And by the way, like a really, really terrible waiter. Like,
is that your main flaw with the movie?
Having been a waiter, that was my criticism of him. I would say, like, yes, him leaving without telling anybody that he's going to an emergency room, taking his sweet time getting back.
Right.
That is like the most packed bar in America at all times.
Uh-huh.
And they need competent waitstaff.
Yeah.
For him to just fuck over his fellow waiters and bussers, him bringing in 6 friends, like, does not cover the cost of what he is contributing to that establishment.
That didn't even bump for me. I love that, you're bringing real authority to this conversation.
When they go and, like, have a funny swirly of Rob Lowe, and they all kind of convene in that bathroom and then have their weird booga 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 chant.
Uh-huh.
They leave. Emilio Estevez, having just urinated, does not wash his hands. Watched it twice. Had to confirm.
And then goes back to like serving drinks and whatever.
Goes back to like slinging burgers and pouring pitchers of beer. And you're fired,
hands.
dude. With piss hands. I mean, that's probably what Andie MacDowell sensed about him.
Yeah.
She cannot afford to have infection hands like that. Although
no, she works in a hospital. Yeah, absolutely not. So like I had forgotten completely that Andie MacDowell was in this movie, because my first memory of her on screen is Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Like I knew her as a model, but like for me, like that was the movie where I was like, oh, and she's also an actor. I had no memory whatsoever of her in this movie. I must have completely repressed it.
Yeah, she went from co-starring with one kind of Pretty in Pink star to another in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. I guess Spader's Brat Packy, right? Like, would we toss him in on that? Okay.
We call him Brat Pack adjacent.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The tangential Brat Pack.
Early on, you seem to gravitate toward Demi Moore while recalling the plot, and later on you added that you just wanted to be her despite her being a total fuck-up. Does this give you any insight as to how you think your younger self might have been viewing this film?
Yeah, well, honestly, I think one of the kind of cool things about this film is that these characters do become more complicated, right? As they move on during the arc of the film. Like she certainly does, because it's a real cautionary tale about like living above your means. And I do remember that as a kid, like really falling in love with just how kind of like, audacious and like sexy and kind of carefree she seemed to be. And, like obviously beautiful and fashionable and all of that. And how cool her apartment was. And then seeing how that could be taken away, and the fact that, she had this cocaine habit that was not fun. In fact, that her life was not fun. And I remember being struck by that as a kid. And I was even more struck by it as an adult.
And cocaine does cost money, right, Josh? Like,
it's not free generally, yeah.
Okay.
And when she pulls out the cocaine, did you guys notice that it's like the size of a pill bottle, full of cocaine? Like it's not like a normal vial. It's like a vial the size of a fucking pill bottle full of cocaine.
She goes to a Coke boutique for it.
Yeah. So that's a real problem, and you can see why she's not paying her furniture debts.
Sure. And I would assume that someone as attractive as, 21 or 22-year-old Demi Moore probably is getting Coke free fairly often from male suitors.
Oh, yeah.
So her Coke habit isn't...
Well, that's quite an assumption, you guys.
I mean, the bank manager probably has a pretty sizable budget for cocaine for his employees / lovers.
Yeah, it's on the line item budget.
Yeah, but if I can just come and push back against that little bit of misogyny you guys just offered, I think that's one of the lessons of that character's arc is that, she talks about this affair with the bank manager, which never happened, right? Like it's all a lie. Like so much of that character is about presentation, right?
Sure.
So like, whether she is, going out with all of these people, like that's all just a story.
But she is with the
rich guy,
like Saudis. She is with the rich guy. There are multiple times where we see her with other guys.
She's also like literally sexually assaulted, right, by Rob Lowe.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. Back then you could easily come back from that in 48 hours. As far as your friendship goes, they had a very tender goodbye.
And I think we can talk about how that was handled, but I think just character wise, it showed that she. And it was more than that she wasn't as sexually available as that character was sort of portrayed early on, right? Mm-hmm. So, I do think that character, and again, remember, Demi Moore was sent to rehab before this movie.
Yeah.
I think that character had more going on than just kind of being the party girl who will fuck you for some cocaine.
She didn't want to waste...
I wasn't implying that she was fucking for cocaine.
You kind of did. You did, Josh.
I was saying that attractive people...
guys. That she had many suitors who would give her cocaine. And that implies that she was fucking boys for cocaine.
You don't need to fuck if you're going on a date.
If you're getting free cocaine, you do.
I mean, there would have been plenty of situations where a girl who's going to parties like she is would be able to have cocaine that she's not having to put money down for.
Uh-huh. And that is probably how she got addicted.
Oh, sure.
Well, she is coked up when Judd Nelson goes to pick her up with the Saudis. Mm-hmm. There's no fucking that has taken place at that point. And then she goes off to call somebody else because she doesn't want to waste good coke.
Mm-hmm.
Her line. So she has achieved a high without having to compromise herself sexually. And I imagine that her character was quite good at that because men buy drinks for women, men offer free coke to women, men offer cigarettes, perhaps in their mind of getting somewhere sexually with her, but she seemed pretty in control of herself and knew where the line was. I mean, the thing with Rob Lowe is that she actually confesses like feelings for him in that car. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it does seem a little bit strange that, well, I guess it doesn't seem strange that Rob Lowe takes advantage of that, just like he takes advantage of everybody in the movie.
They're literally parked out, like in front of his,
his fucking house with his wife. Wife, not even baby mama.
His wife and child.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy.
Oh, boy.
You, sir, Josh, you were saying you were a Rob Lowe boy.
I was very specifically trying not to give away too much of the movie. And I like Rob Lowe in the abstract, which is what I said. I just re-listened to it. I like Rob Lowe in the abstract, but I couldn't really get into the fact that I think every character in this movie kind of is horrible. Like, as a person, almost every character in this movie is legit awful of the main seven.
Why is Mare Winningham on your shit list?
She's just so fucking pathetic throughout.
She's passive, yeah.
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 I mean, she sucks, but, like, she's not a terrible person. Like, she's working...
No, she's not a terrible person, but she's not a good character to watch in a film. Like...
If you have health insurance, you might be able to see a personal dietitian for $0 out of pocket. Nourish connects you with a dietitian that fits your needs, covered by your insurance. Nourish accepts hundreds of insurance plans, and 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Meet with your dietitian online and message them anytime through the Nourish app. With hundreds of 5-star reviews from real patients, you know you're in good hands. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
I could not believe, I mean, yeah, I just want to jump to this, that they still have sex.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. I certainly remember the famous underwear scene, as I hope everybody calls this, where Rob Lowe...
famous. No one else remembers it.
Nope, I'm going to make it famous. Where Rob Lowe tries to take off her... Again, those seem like there's way more latex than just granny panties. That is
like
that's
Spanx.
what I said, and
well, it's a girdle. It's a girdle because it's not Spanx didn't exist. She says it's a girdle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, her rubber enforced pre-war girdle, could not be. I mean, it was basically a chastity belt that she was wearing.
She's also pregnant in real life.
In that scene?
Yeah, she was pregnant during filming. Yep.
Okay, that's why she may have been like so frumpied, right? She had like a pretty like bland aesthetic. She was like, we never saw her figure the way that we saw Demi Moore and Ali Sheedy's. So yeah, I don't know.
It was overly frumpy, like distractingly frumpy.
Yeah.
You know, with the Peter Pan collars and the big sweaters and the pleated skirts.
It made you really worry about her.
It just kind of felt like, what's she doing hanging out with these guys?
I think it's pretty easy to ask, what is any character doing hanging out with any other character in this film? They are hurtling apart in such disparate different directions.
But isn't that what the movie's kind of about?
That's what the movie's kind of about, but I think you still have to believe that they would have been friends, and I don't know that I can buy that they would have been friends. Like I get that Andrew McCarthy would want to be friends with, we're never going to refer to them as their characters' names. Because I don't think for anyone watching this, they think that this is anyone other than, oh, no, that's Andrew McCarthy playing the Andrew McCarthy character. Or, Judd Nelson's obviously not playing Bender, but, like, he's still not anything but Judd Nelson here. But I think it's pretty hard to see why anyone would look up to Alec, which they all seem to look up to Alec, Judd Nelson's character.
Who very easily flops on going from a Democratic congressman to a Republican senator. Like, how is that?
He's clearly from family money. Look at that apartment. So, like, maybe they think
there's a lot of family money in this movie, right?
But he was like the president of the Young Democrats or whatever organization at Georgetown, and is instantly, oh, I'll take the job working for a Republican senator.
Yeah. I don't know how that isn't like a major issue with Ali Sheedy's character.
Yeah.
It's just kind of is like, it's not brought up and dropped. Like, it's discussed.
No, but it's just like a point of
to show us that he, is kind of amoral, right?
Mm-hmm. But no one's like, I think if any of us had a friend that did that, we'd all be like way more concerned. Like, does this mean we can't be friends with this person anymore?
Remember, this was the 80s, though, right? It was Reagan, he's sort of meant to play this kind of ultimate yuppie character.
No, he's Alex P. Keaton, basically.
He's Alex P. Keaton with, like, a sex addiction, no morals, and, like, yeah, I don't know. Him coming into the apartment, right, at the end of that morning of sex, it just felt like some tantric sex going on for a couple days, but it was just one night. It feels so weird that he suddenly wants to get her back, even he's just thrown her out, right? The night before. This is no time has passed. This guy's emotions waffle. He throws footballs through windows. He's violent.
He throws her out because she has called him out for cheating.
Right. It's her fault.
My impression is that, he has a plan where he's going to become a politician, right? He's going to run for office.
Oh, for sure.
And he has cast her as his political wife, right? Which she is the right character to play that political wife, which is why he wants to hang on to her.
Now, did grown-up Chelsea still gravitate toward Demi Moore's character, or did you feel like you had a different analog this time?
In terms of like the character that I most kind of like gravitated toward, period, of the group,
or of like who you saw yourself in.
I never saw myself in Demi Moore characters.
Okay.
That was more aspirational.
Yeah.
And it mostly tied up to the apartment.
Yeah, it really did. And then she lost all of that. And so
what was up with those windows?
Yeah, like I'm trying to think that
steel bars.
I guess more Andrew McCarthy but still I love Demi Moore's character in that movie. Like she's really charismatic and also vulnerable in a way that I think is interesting. And I say that like more as an author, more as like a world builder, I guess, than as a viewer.
Sure.
And it's hard to separate myself from those two people. And, I still felt that same tension I felt as a kid between everyone who was in the Breakfast Club, who was in this movie, and how they're playing different characters and how kind of discordant that is, right? With Judd Nelson, it's discordant. It's still like watching it. Because I've seen the Breakfast Club far, far more many times than this. And so like, it's still weird to like see him in this suit, and yuppie haircut.
Yeah.
And it's what, a year? A year?
Breakfast Club is this year.
Oh, God.
Breakfast Club came out in 85.
Yeah. Talk about analogs like maybe Howie. I don't know. For me, that's...
Just on the outside looking in at this like disaster of a friend group.
Yeah, and she's the one who ended it, where it would be like, you're obviously in love with this guy who keeps bringing up your own virginity and then takes it.
As a gift to you, basically.
Yeah, he asked for a goodbye present.
Or, yeah.
Which is just so
But I think he thinks that he's
it's such a douchey, like, pickup line.
Oh,
yeah.
It's awful. It's awful. And like that weird walk where they meet them all at the bus stop, and he gives her what every woman, Chelsea, forgive me here, but I'm going to generalize, what every woman who is in love with a guy who has just had sex with, taken her virginity. He gives her a paternal kiss on the forehead goodbye.
Yeah, totally.
It's not even on the forehead, it's on the top of the head. It's straight up like on the hair.
Real child, yeah.
I think he may have removed her winter cap for that moment. And then what? Going away to distant New York City, like as if nobody's ever going to see him again. I'm like, you can get there in like an afternoon. So, like... But like, that would be the moment where like, that would be a goodbye present to give Mare Winningham like a really romantic kiss in that moment and like silence your friends and have them all kind of have this thing that like, holy shit, Billy just kissed whatever her name was.
That would have been a much better choice. You're right.
But that just patronizing kiss of like, you've earned this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, this fucking guy. And you know, like the stuff with the wife and the kid, like again, that's kind of just minimalized. Like, it's going to be better for her to have a dad every day. Yeah, no fucking shit. That can be you. Like, oh, it's kind of better if like this young baby that I've created has a dad that's just kind of around. Yeah, you're the father. And he goes from at that bar where he's playing sax, he's saxing so fucking hard. Mm-hmm. And that's on a Halloween night. I was wondering if Chelsea, who Halloween's pretty big, would have problems with this Brat Pack showing up in Groucho Marx glasses, and that's it. Like,
put some fucking into it.
Amateur hour Halloween costumes. Everybody else in that St. Elmo's Fire has taken the time, has put the money in, has thought about their costume, and these fucking assholes are lazily coming in with Groucho Marx mustaches to support their friend. His wife shows up with poor man's Crocodile Dundee or whoever that was. They get in that fight, and in the street, he says, I hate you, you little bitch. Mm-hmm. And then they go to a romantic embrace, tearful embrace, within 20 seconds. This guy is not well.
Here's a question for you. So Demi Moore at the Halloween party, she is wearing, right, the pink kind of corset, and like she's got her hair all kinked out, and like I still don't know, like, is she in costume, right, as Madonna, or like doing, like, is there a costume there, or is that just like her going out?
I feel like that's her going out.
Right, because on the poster it's like everybody in their work clothes and then her with the kinked out hair and the Madonna outfit.
I definitely feel like if she has pop art Billy Idol, that's just gonna kind of be a weekend look.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like, that to me is like, you know, either the Mare Winningham character or Judd buying like a bulk load of Groucho Marx glasses and being like, here, put this on. It's Halloween. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no coordination. Like, she's showing up and being like, yeah, I can wear this and still look hot because I'm Demi Moore and I'm 23 or whatever. But yeah, I mean, every moment where I was like, this is the end of the friendship was like played for laughs and like high-fived and broed down, and like Emilio Estevez being like, Halloween, right? It's like, no, this is the end of the friendship. Like, you should not hang out with these people anymore. Everybody's toxic.
There. At the end, you know, like, we get that sense of like, they're not going to go to that bar anymore. There's this kind of like, right, new generation, and they're going to go their separate ways. Ultimately,
they're gonna have brunch.
Yeah, they're graduating to being brunch people.
Right, they're going to have
what the implication is here.
Right, they're going to have a couple brunches, and then they're never going to talk again. You know.
You hope so, but I think the implication is that they're just graduating.
They're not bar people. They're now brunch people.
Yeah, they've like
the one person left, but
they've all turned 23 or 24. They can't go to St. Elmo's Fire anymore, which is like just an obvious 22-year-old hangout kind of place.
Right. I do love how in that last shot we see great groups of 6 other, you know, like 6 people coming out of the bar. Yeah. Like, you can only go there in like a pack.
Yeah, because you see the group of 6, basically the replacement for them sitting at the table in the bar.
At their table.
And then you get another cab or whatever that pulls up and drops people off. Anyway. So you called them the so-called Brat Pack. As anyone who saw Andrew McCarthy's doc from earlier this year, Brats, can tell you, the term Brat Pack was coined in David Bloom's feature for New York Magazine, which he wrote while bouncing around Hollywood, primarily with Estevez, Lowe, and Nelson in the lead-up to the release of this film. The internet was ablaze with talk of Brats, and particularly with Andrew McCarthy. Did either of you also see Brats?
I did not see it. I haven't really followed McCarthy's kind of TV career, his like post 80s stuff, to be honest.
I totally saw it. Yeah, watched it a couple of weeks ago.
Do you have thoughts about it and this in relation to the documentary? Because I think it's kind of grounds that we should at least talk about, since it's still pretty much in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting how, one, he hadn't seen any of those people in 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like they were, having an ongoing brunch date, it turns out.
No, definitely not.
And, so like, he was visiting, each of these people and, like reconnecting with them. And they did seem to have this connection once they, were kind of reunited, because they had gone through, right, this intense period of their lives together. But that whole notion of like how that label had really, he felt, really hurt by it. He felt like it had, like literally derailed his career. Yeah. And to kind of like hear what some of the other actors had to say about that was very interesting to me. Yeah. And then of course, having the conversation with the columnist, who was like, no, I just kind of like, thought that would get some, like, sell some papers. Like it was nothing to him.
Right.
Right. It wasn't intentionally malicious. And he felt like, these are these young people who are making all kinds of money. They're stars. They can take it. Right. Like, right. Whatever.
Clearly some of them couldn't.
But again, Andrew McCarthy, who is so sensitive. He's so sensitive. He really felt it deeply.
Do you think that informed some of your rewatch? Did that imbue him with more sensitivity maybe than you would have otherwise seen him with?
I don't know, because like I really always did really attach to him and always thought like he was very sensitive. I think it just kind of reaffirmed my bias, my priors.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I found it interesting how well adjusted about the whole thing Demi Moore and Rob Lowe both seemed.
Yeah.
There was also clearly some weird energy between him and Emilio. And he and Emilio had actually roomed together before this, since they were roommates for this. Like, they roomed together to kind of like get in that space. I mean, I don't know that they needed to.
But they're actors.
But they did. Yeah, but sure. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was weird.
They're not roommates in the movie.
No, they are roommates in the movie.
Former.
Rob Lowe? Yeah.
No. Emilio. Emilio and Andrew McCarthy are.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
it feels like we don't see much of Emilio at that apartment because he's
stalking a doctor.
He's always working or like rushing off from work to something more important.
He's stealing friends' cars to go stalk.
Like I do think like for Rob Lowe and Demi Moore, like, yeah, they're well adjusted. They're major stars.
They had success.
Who have had, like they have $50 million at least and have had, like all kind, right. Yeah. And sustained fame.
Yes.
In a way that Andrew McCarthy, who is still a working actor, right. And director and like has done a lot of things. Like I understand how he might, have wondered more about like what could have happened to my career. Where would I be now if, like I hadn't been called a brat in this newspaper? Sure. Especially like, oh my God, like Rob Lowe's Malibu house. It's pretty nice.
Right. But to be fair, Rob Lowe did wander the desert for like a decade. He didn't really have much of a career to speak of for the bulk of the 90s.
Yeah. There was that whole like thing at the Democratic convention in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So he was still in the news.
Yeah, he was in the news, right? But not for good things. That was 88, I believe. The DNC in 88.
Yeah, he was in like actor jail or whatever for a while. Mm-hmm. I can't really think of a movie that he was in the 90s.
Wayne's World.
Okay, yeah, Wayne's World. And I guess he had like a relationship with Mike Myers because he brought him in for Austin Powers stuff too.
And was he in Tommy Boy also?
Yeah. So he found like legs with kind of being...
But like very small roles.
Yeah, but the same type of role. Kind of the schmarmy foil to the protagonist.
Right.
But nothing as a lead, right? I mean, nothing...
Nothing substantive,
big.
Yeah.
If you have health insurance, you might be able to see a personal dietitian for $0 out of pocket. Nourish connects you with a dietitian that fits your needs, covered by your insurance. Nourish accepts hundreds of insurance plans, and 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Meet with your dietitian online and message them anytime through the Nourish app. With hundreds of 5-star reviews from real patients, you know you're in good hands. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So after we established that you were 12 or 13 when you would have been going to St. Elmo's Fire, you stated that you loved these Brat Packers as a child. Were you able to jump right back into your affinity for these Brat Packers on rewatch?
Well, sure, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, like I thought, like much as I do when I rewatch the John Hughes movies, it's like these, these guys are pretty good, like you watch those like Molly Ringwald movies, and like Molly Ringwald was like really good. Like she was incredibly watchable.
Yeah.
And I think that the characters in this movie are, like to a person, very watchable. Like you might have a critique about their character, like likability, but as actors, they're watchable.
Yeah, for sure. No, my problems are not with the acting in this movie. My problems lie wholly with how every character's written.
I had no idea that Joel Schumacher was the director until I did the rewatch, and I was like, oh my god, because I'm not a Joel Schumacher girl. I was like,
It's funny you say that, Chelsea, because two of your other movies to us were also Joel Schumacher movies, Lost Boys and Flatliners.
Yeah. So I think that maybe I am a Joel Schumacher girl. I haven't dealt with that because I didn't know.
Yeah, I think that there's probably some connection to his influence on your adolescence that we still need to unpack here. But yeah, I think that that's absolutely valid. Like everybody here kind of plays their part. They are limited, certainly by Joel. They're limited by this script.
Yeah.
Nobody here is fumbling their character. The problem is
we're not distracted by a performance,
No.
Right.
I mean, Andie MacDowell's a little weird, I guess, in this. And maybe she's maybe the newest to movies of anybody else.
She's always a little weird though.
This is her first real acting role. It's her own voice.
Yeah, I mean, she really gets to break free of this in the next couple of years with Sex, Lies, and Videotape,
and Hudson Hawk.
Sure, I'll shout out Hudson Hawk. But this performance is very, very strange. I think this takes me out of it a little bit, even being Andie MacDowell. The character is broken, completely broken, for a doctor to lead this guy on in such a way. And even after seeing his obsession kind of play out, still, it has a really toxic kind of ending to this relationship. Talk about problematic.
Yeah.
This is really rough. And I'm not even going to bring up my side gripe when a picture is taken in the movie.
It's awful.
That is not the picture that was taken. So they are both looking at the camera.
Right down the barrel.
Right down the barrel of a Polaroid. And then we get this side angle.
Baffling.
From a mysterious second gunman.
Yeah.
A small gripe, not my biggest gripe in that subplot.
Yeah.
Oh, I had the note also. I was very bothered by it.
And it reminded me in a shitty way of Love Actually, with that type of obsession and how it's treated. With enabling it, using the word flattered. This fucking guy drove.
Where the fact that he drives to the cabin.
Look, they're in DC. Yeah, it's at least a couple hours, right?
Well, in real life, it's the distance from LA to fucking Truckee, California, which is basically Lake Tahoe.
This is at least 2 hours into Pennsylvania, maybe Maryland. Mm-hmm. But if it's Pennsylvania, that's a couple hours. If it's
It's
Maryland,
creepy because it's a remote cabin, so it's especially creepy because that is a vulnerable place to like show up at night.
It's a remote cabin with a fucking man who is naked, wrapped in a blanket. Like, get the fucking message.
I think that he takes it really well, the boyfriend.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? If we can talk about like gentle masculinity.
I would have brained him with a fucking fire poker. Like, fuck that guy.
Chelsea and Josh, if you are the boyfriend here, can you go to sleep in that cabin knowing this guy is in your living room?
No.
No fucking way. I would spend the entire night like leaning against the door.
He'd never get into the cabin. The sheriff would be there like, fuck this guy. This guy's psychotic and needs to be taken away.
It's these type. He needs help. He needs help. But Emilio knew that if he could lay one of those Estevez kisses on her, I mean, like, the presumption being that she's never going to be able to shake that feeling, that moment, because Estevez dipped her.
Right, it's like he's pissing on her, like claiming her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, planted his flag, right?
We don't know that he didn't piss there. That could have been out of frame.
And if he did piss, he wouldn't have washed his hands. I mean, there's a lot of problems with these guys. I mean, the women get a little bit kinder handling. Yeah. But even Chelsea's dreamboat ashes his cigarette into a stir fry that people, friends of his, are going to be eating. Frankly, this movie should have just been called Cigarettes. But why is that a laugh when you nonchalantly ash your cigarette? I'm like,
it's a subtext. I think
friendship's
Joel Schumacher is really getting at something here with a subtextual communication about his relationship with these friends right at that point.
The subtext is that there are no boundaries and there are no repercussions, and that friendship can withstand terrible behavior.
Like, isn't that what we feel with our group in high school, though, right? Which is like something I think is sort of fascinating, right? Like that sense of like your group of friends in high school, you have this feeling like they're going to be your group of friends forever, and you're going to forgive anything anybody does. And this breaks that down. It kind of peels away at it.
I don't think it does.
It does.
I think it intends to. I don't know that it succeeds in getting that across.
They talk about it, but like nobody has taken on like a third party friend in this movie. Like they are all still together. They're all still laughing.
Because Howie gets the boot.
Howie
like
gets
that is what I love about it, is that they're all so codependent.
So we were just talking about both names and Joel Schumacher. Columbia Pictures hated the fucking name of this so much that they had a 35-page memo listing all of their issues with the title and proposing alternatives like The Real World or Sparks.
I love that. Oh, I get it, like fire.
Yeah. The Schumacher of it all, he was a former costume designer. This is kind of his breakout film as a director. He'd done 2 TV movies and then the mostly maligned Incredible Shrinking Woman and DC Cab before this.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the last film that he wrote for 14 years when he finally wrote and directed Flawless in 99. How do we think this movie did at the box office?
Crushed. I'm guessing it made a fuck ton of money.
I don't know if it made a fuck ton, but it certainly did well because I saw it twice.
Do you think you paid both times?
Oh, I absolutely did, yeah.
Or sorry, do you think that somebody who would have seen this would have paid to see this twice?
Yes.
So this closed out the 1985 box office at 25th and made another $6 million after the calendar turned over, passing 5 of the movies from 85 that were in front of it, but getting passed by 2 winter releases. So it ended up like 22nd at the box office that year. It grossed a total of $37.8 million, which is roughly $110 million today for an R-rated dramedy on a roughly $10 million budget.
Yeah, this was R-rated? How did I get in to see this movie?
$10 million budget, right?
$10 million budget.
Most of that's Coke.
Well, and the budgets are weird in the 80s. They don't necessarily factor in the actual prints of the film and the advertising budget, but it still inarguably made money and then made a fuck ton more on home video.
What was the Coke budget?
Well, Demi Moore wasn't partaking, at least, because she had a sober companion on the shoot with her the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Because she had just gotten out of rehab right before this.
No lapses.
But also, like, think about how triggering that would be, right?
And you know that no one who was doing coke on set or, in the trailer or whatever, you know that no one...
Everyone on that set was doing
for sure.
Except Demi Moore, maybe.
Yeah. She did have a sober companion with her, so, there's reason to believe that maybe she wasn't imbibing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was successful at the box office. How do we think critics felt about it?
Ooh, I don't think they liked it.
I think they're more like you guys than me. That's what I think. Yeah.
It had a 35 on Metacritic and a 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. Those are obviously not necessarily super representative, but
right, those are contemporaneous.
No,
you can't review it now.
They do have some that were contemporaneous. They do have New York Times reviews and Siskel's review. Siskel and Ebert hated this movie.
Yeah, well, they were 50-year-old guys. No offense.
They were probably like a spry 28.
They were probably, at that point. Yeah. Maybe 32-year-old guys.
They were probably early 40s at this point.
Yeah, but it was not a movie for them, which again, I love that show. I love them both, and I'm not discounting their point of view at all. But I'm saying I bet the review in 17 magazine was positive.
Sure. They did put this in their At the Movies Worst of 1985 list. They ripped it 3 separate times. They had Worst of the Summer of 1985, its actual episode, and the Worst of 1985. They hated this movie.
Can I posit a theory here? Perhaps the injury to Andrew McCarthy's career was less the title of the Brat Pack and more these reviews.
Concur entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet he was good. God, was suffering.
He's not bad in this. I mean, I think this type of character isn't always super sympathetic. The one who's just pining, that's kind of his entire personality.
Yeah,
is just pining
How
over.
Can you say that's
pining
not
over this
sympathetic?
I don't like to watch it anymore. As a grown-up, that thing has sort of lost its draw to me, and now I'm just oh, this is irritating.
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea, how did the post-coitus Andrew McCarthy, how did that stack up for you? Where he started to kind of rush things. Obviously, she had been in this long thing with Alec, and she definitely needs a rebound lay, which I don't even know if we had that term back then, but he's a rebound, right? Yes, she has used kind of this friendship. She's gone over to his apartment. I don't even remember why. She's having brandy. They're drunk.
And he's taking advantage of her as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as Josh can attest, and I've said this almost every episode, if you're going to have a sex scene, you got to keep on the pearls. Josh, don't you know? How many times have you heard me tell you this?
Every time, without fail.
And if you notice, the trope with the pearls in this movie was that they were down the back.
Mm-hmm.
Demi Moore, they had shots of her and Ali Sheedy. It was always that was somebody had a fetish about that.
For sure.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's Schumacher. He was a costume designer.
Yeah. Schumacher's fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the weird. I mean, they've moved.
Somebody wants to move in right away. I know.
They move into the shower on the first night's sex scene. Yes, we're playing things up for cinema, but we have a very, very long scene here with the two of them humping. Also, what was your take on Ali Sheedy coming out? Were you good for you, or were you oh, bad move? Where Alec is walking to the door and she has the confrontation there, kind of wrapped up in a bedsheet. Because I thought it's kind of a dick move to do to McCarthy at that moment. He has just been able to kind of get this guy out the door without him knowing the horrible, horrible truth. And then she thrusts the truth kind of... I mean, I was expecting...
Yeah.
Flaunts it. I was expecting a punch there, to be honest. It didn't come, but...
Well, he just punched him the night before.
It's just dramatic tension,
He threw him down the night before. I don't think he punched him, but he tells him to shut up really loudly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the end of the confrontation. And then there's maybe something else I can't remember how he ends it with her. But the next scene they're together, she's taking her records back.
Yeah.
I imagine, though, that if you're moving out of a place you've been living with your boyfriend, that you should show up with more than 2.5 boxes.
Yeah.
I know. I loved the 2.5 boxes. I meant to mention that. It's just like, really, like that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's all.
What the fuck?
It was all Ali Sheedy could hold. She's a very,
But like, at least
kind of a
break the
featherweight.
boxes down. You know, have them. The whole thing is just ridiculous. Yeah.
Like that showing up, realizing that you didn't get any boxes, going like, oh fuck, and then going to the recycling like on the street and seeing what you can pull out of there,
Mm-hmm.
and then just walking it. I mean, like she has lived with this guy for a long time, multiple years probably. Records, like
that's all she's getting is records.
But okay, devil's advocate.
What about the box for your pearls?
Isn't it right? That's a whole different box. One could argue that she is arriving with 2.5 boxes because she really doesn't want to leave, right? And she is starting with the records because that is a conversation that has to happen because you have to negotiate about the records.
But also, she opens that by saying, "I came because you weren't supposed to be here." And
right.
he does that like, "Oh, I'm not feeling well," like, which is bullshit. Like he wanted to be there to confront her, but like she didn't know. Well, maybe she does. Maybe she knows him so well that she knew that he was gonna do a bullshit "I'm calling in sick" maneuver. I don't know. Yeah, I just felt like her coming out of that bedroom, kind of a dick move. And
it's funny to me how much you guys are judging the characters for their choices rather than the film.
Well, I mean, it's inherent in like we're criticizing the film. Like it's not the actors. The actors aren't doing anything to incur our wrath. Yeah, it's character motivation like not making sense, or character actions not making sense. I do want to like have a clear line of demarcation. The criticism is not with the cast. And if we're criticizing a character, I think I speak for Sean here. We're criticizing the screenplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're hamstrung here a little bit. I mean, they at no point drop the facade that they're dealing with a porous screenplay. Mm-hmm. Like these actors, they're getting every dollar's worth production from these actors, for sure.
And I mean, they're making a fuck ton of money on the back end because of these actors. They're not making the money because of Schumacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got 6 Brat Packers and Mare Winningham together, and that's a winning combination at the box office.
I mean, Judd Nelson has to.
I love that. And Mare Winningham. It's like, and Peggy, you know?
I mean, she's definitely not considered a Brat Packer.
Oh, for sure not.
Yeah.
Well, she was also like 35 and pregnant, right? Like she was much older than that.
She's only like 24 here, but she has had,
really?
She is pregnant and has another kid already.
I thought she was older than that, maybe just because of the frumpiness.
The frumpiness ages her by 2 decades.
Right. But like, I mean, I thought the actor was like, you know, like sure. I know she's playing 22, but I always thought she was older.
There's a joke too about her, like, I think it's self-deprecating about her being fat. And I was
Which is fucked up to say about a pregnant person.
It's fucked up to say about a pregnant person, but in 1985, like even frumpified Mare Winningham was not like the big girl.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It stood out. There's so many like little moments of these characters where I'm just like, oh my God, what a dick move. And like, yeah, Alec is like dickish in many, many respects. He probably has the scent of another man when he surprises his fiance with an engagement. Like with Chelsea, when that happened, when he like dinged the glass or whatever and said that
we're getting married in June.
Did he give a wedding?
Oh yeah. He said we're getting married like June 6th or something.
Yeah.
D-Day. Like that could right there be the end of the relationship, regardless of him sleeping around with what was it, lingerie models?
No, it was a salesperson at the store.
Sluttery salesman. Yeah, smooth.
Yeah, I guess like I don't mind if characters are dicks. Like I think in narratives, characters are dicks sometimes, and to me, like it's clearly like I watch that and I'm like, oh my God, he's such a fucking dick. And what's she gonna do? And when she, you know, like that creates tension with their relationship. And it's clear, like it's obviously we're supposed to understand that he's being a dick in that moment and being controlling.
Yeah.
And so like we're waiting to see how she responds. So like I don't have a problem with that at all.
Announcing the engagement to throwing her out of the apartment in 2 minutes of film time.
Yep. Announcing an engagement that she has not agreed to.
Well, yeah, no, like, and that's the point. Yeah. Like, obviously, like, it's not like somebody did that by accident in the screenplay. Like, that was an intentional, like, we're meant to see he's a dick, and we're meant to see that moment is him trying to hold on to her, by announcing this engagement.
But usually when you have characters who are being dicks, they're being dicks to our antagonists. They're being dicks to the people that we don't like or are not rooting for in the movie. Or they're just, or they're the
villain. Yeah.
Or they're the villains. Yeah.
I think that's a really limited way of looking at narrative. I think that, really good narrative has all kinds of dicks who.
So what is it?
Dickishly to all kinds of people. And I think that is more complex, frankly, than just allowing a villain to be a dick.
What is another movie that jumps to mind where a protagonist is dickish to his friends, to the other protagonists in the movie, that stands out? Everything that I'm thinking of is like people are being dicks to authority, or people are being dicks to the preppy boyfriend who we don't want somebody to end up with. But to have 7 main characters in your movie and every one of the men be problematic in certain ways. Mm-hmm. Andrew McCarthy probably the least of those 4, I think is safe to say.
But the other 3, highly problematic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, like look at every John Hughes movie. Right? Look at Pretty in Pink. Like the men are dicks to the women. And, you look at 16 Candles and, like Andy Michael Hall is a total dick.
Right. But those are movies.
Like rapes a woman.
But those are Sam movies. Those are Molly Ringwald movies. We are with her. Like everybody else is ancillary to that. The problem with this movie is that we don't have that singular protagonist that everything kind of orbits around. Yeah.
And none of them have any redeeming, or most of them don't have many redeeming qualities. Certainly the three men, the 3 non-Andrew McCarthy males, name a redeeming quality about one of them. I'll give just one.
But again, I don't need a redeeming quality to enjoy a narrative.
I mean,
I write about serial killers, so
sure, but I bet your serial killer has more redeeming qualities than Billy Hicks does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't your serial killers have a code, have standards, have boundaries in some respects? That they're not just like Billy who just needs to fuck anything at all times and will do anything it takes. I mean,
I date Billy. I'm not saying I think he's a good person. I'm saying it's interesting to watch him. It's interesting to watch like unredeemable characters sometimes like move through the world.
I don't disagree with that in the abstract, but I think that generally if we're doing that, we're watching like an anti-hero or like, villain in the lead sort of scenario. And I don't think this is that. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think this is working on that anti-hero level where, like, we are meant to root for them, I guess, but I don't think it succeeds in getting us to root for them.
Yeah, like, this is not a hill I want to die on, like defending St. Elmo's Fire.
Sure.
Too late.
I'm just saying, I liked it more than you guys.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, so let's throw to the next clip where Sean asked if this was kind of a young adults in the city working out life's problem kind of movie, where you responded.
Are they working out life's problems? They're hooking up, they're doing drugs, they're hanging out at a bar, they're like 22, 23, whatever. And my memory is that some of their lives look really good and then go south. That's my memory, right? As a kid, is being like, oh, this is a cautionary tale because even though this person like seems like they have it together, they don't.
Drama.
Are you glad that your memory of them not all being as well off as they might have seemed early on ended up being pretty accurate?
Yeah. I think that, that is still accurate. The characters at the beginning seem to have things much more together than it turns out that they do.
Mm-hmm. With the exception of Rob Lowe, obviously.
With the exception of Billy, who, like, DUIs his friend. I believe her car, I don't know whose car it was, but crashes a car and then, like, gets a... I don't even think he's...
So, like, we're never meant to, like, think that Rob Lowe has it together.
No.
Uh-huh.
He just... For sure. But he wrecked Mare Winningham's car.
And yet, when he shows up, right, in the Jeep with Demi Moore, like, that's a reveal that he's actually still living, right, with the wife and son. Like that is, I think, an interesting complication to that character. Because, like we're meant to believe that, he is, obviously we imagine no longer with them. And it turns out, oh, he's still with them.
Yeah, he's still been acting like this while living with them the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm willing to sexually assault a very, very close friend while the engine
in his
is
driveway.
running.
Yeah.
God, that scene's so fucking gross.
I recently found out that you can see a personal dietitian covered by insurance. There's this platform called Nourish that will match you with a dietitian based on whatever your concerns are, whether that's weight loss, eating disorders, autoimmune conditions, or something else. They're actually a network with major insurance providers, so most patients pay $0 out of pocket. 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Was this as cautionary as your memory of the film thought it was?
Well, yeah, like it's cautionary to a 12 or 13-year-old, right?
Okay.
Who has little life experience.
Right.
Yes. Sure. Yes. In that sense. Yeah.
And bear in mind too, like while we're
don't date saxophone players. Like that is.
Well, yeah, I loved how the saxophone was this elite motif for Rob Lowe showing up in that beat up truck to save Demi Moore. It was like when he rolls in, because he's working like a few blocks away at Amico. Shout out Amico, which we don't do enough. That like the score adds this like really sexy, steamy saxophone melody to show that Rob Lowe is arriving.
Oh, it's the Rob Lowe romantic theme.
Yeah,
it is. And then he is the one to save Demi Moore. Like he is the one that pulls her back from her suicide by cold approach that she's going for.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
There was that line.
She's gonna freeze to death in DC.
She's gonna freeze to death in
early
DC
evening.
with her, I believe, glassless barred windows. I don't know where the glass went to those fuckers.
They got repoed. The windows got repoed.
Yeah. They were probably third-party glass that she had bought. They might have been neon stained windows.
That was meant to redeem him, right?
Isn't she still in like a sheet or something? She's like wrapped up. So like, there's that line.
Is it the
about,
big
like,
shawl?
I don't think it's the big shawl.
No,
because Chelsea would have not had such a affectionate memory of it.
Yeah.
But she is still kind of wrapped in something. But there's that line of like she'll freeze to death,
right?
And the line is like, well, that's the point. I think that's the point. Like they all know at that point that she is attempting death by exposure to District of Columbia elements.
Yeah, just like turning the central air off because she's probably lost her heat. Honestly, right?
For sure.
Not paying bills.
Right. And even before Rob Lowe's arrival, there's still like this strange, like, oh shit, everyone's there. We're like, we can't break down the door. Gotta climb the fire escape. Emilio Estevez with a very tone deaf blowtorch, anyone? Like, not the time. not the time, Emilio. But Rob Lowe is the one that resolves that issue, right? Like pulls her back from the brink, even though I believe their last interaction was the Jeep. He's still the one that sits with her, offers her cigarettes. She has that great line of like, I'm so tired at 22. And I was like, baby girl, sweet baby, wait a couple of decades.
I think it's so much worse.
Yeah. Wait till you hurt yourself sleeping. Because I'm so tired at 22. And he has that really patronizing line, which is, no one was buying this Together Woman of the 80s stuff anyway. Which, chef kiss, how amazing that was. To be told that.
By the guy who just tried to sexually assault you.
By the guy.
That all of your friends have decided is the one person to send into the room with you.
Who didn't take no 4 times. I mean, where is the gay interior decorator neighbor with the giant cocktails?
Yeah.
Because that's the guy.
We see him poke his head out the door.
He pokes his head out, but like he doesn't come in, right?
No.
I want to see the fanfic about him and Andrew McCarthy.
I'm sure it exists.
When she knocks on the door to alert him of Andrew McCarthy's presence, he has a giant cocktail, and that door was opened within a second or two. Mm-hmm. So he is always standing there. But I think he's coming home with groceries or something at that point when they're trying to break down the door. But like that would be, I know that it's a movie, we got to send fucking Billy in. But like that would have been the move, right? The sensitive gay interior decorator to pull her back.
And just to be like, all right, you guys stand back.
Let me handle this. Meanwhile, we have Andrew McCarthy being like held over a railing by his ankles, like fucking Batman interrogation. I don't know how you can do that. And then like arm in arm with the romantic triangle woman at the end. Mm-hmm. The guy nearly killed you, literally. He was threatening to kill you. He held you over the railing of what would be probably a fatal drop onto pavement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like I don't buy that they're arm in arm at the end. Like I don't buy that.
Right. Yeah, that did.
With that triangle ends. Okay. Yeah, I think they have one brunch together, and then that's it. And maybe Andrew McCarthy doesn't even show up at brunch.
He might not. Yeah.
I think that no matter how bad things can get, that they can still, like, even if
that there's always room in their heart for brunch.
I think no matter how irreparably bad they are to each other, that as long as they can go booga booga booga, whoa.
Is that a thing at Georgetown, by the way? Has anybody researched that?
No, they made it up.
Okay.
They made it up on set. It was a reference to like them seeing other people talking somewhere. I don't know. I think it was a reference to other people making them when they were in public. And so that was the sort of like noise that they sort of heard from a distance was them booga 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 booga, like, you know, whispering about there's these Brat Packers. Yeah.
I mean, that's how they have chosen to end their movie, right? With
brunch. Plans for
that,
brunch.
But with that noise.
Yeah.
That's how the movie ends, with that chant. That no matter what happens in life, that friends can always be vulcanized back together with a obnoxious chant. I think that's the movie's message.
Well, and that is the fairy tale. Like, as a 12-year-old watching it, again, that is the fairy tale of like, no matter what, your friends will somehow always be there, even after attempted rape and murder.
Right. I think like that is really like the essence here of like, as a kid watching this, you see a unbreakable group of people who you think you're going to be together with forever and who you never get tired of. And like seeing this later in life than you did, Chelsea, and seeing it now, I'm like, we've lived lives and we know that this isn't true. And that people do break up and you aren't friends with everybody forever. And like there are bridges that are too far and some things that you don't come back from with certain people.
Like attempted rape and attempted murder.
Yeah, like attempted rape and attempted murder by different people, by the way. By different people. And certainly not even
with everyone witnessing the attempted murder.
Yeah.
Right.
And let's remove attempted from stalking of the other one.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then there's stalking.
Flat out stalking.
Felonies in this movie for sure.
But I can absolutely empathize with the adolescence of like that hope and optimism that you probably had in your 2 times at the theater of going like, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Mm-hmm. Like, I absolutely can get that. I feel like I understand that version of Chelsea sitting in the theater. And like, you know, like a lot of people, that's why this movie did so well.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of people kind of had that like, oh, wow, like that's what it's going to be like for me. Mm-hmm. That no matter how much of a fuck up or terrible person I am, to the people like really, really close to me, they're going to be there for me and they're going to pull me out of suicide.
Yeah. by cold.
Yeah,
Suicide
by chili.
By exposure.
Suicide by like 38 degrees.
Yeah. And now, you mentioned in the retelling of your haircut ordeal that this was a bad time for fashion generally. How did we feel about the fashion of St. Elmo's Fire?
I thought Demi Moore looked great, as usual.
Uh-huh.
I've never been a fan of the kinked hair,
Sure.
But whatever. It had its moment. But yeah, like I thought, Judd Nelson's suits were kind of ridiculous, but I thought like Andrew McCarthy looked great with his kind of slouchy, right? No tie kind of like suit thing and the smoking.
So much smoking.
Yeah, Mare Winningham like looked terrible, but that clearly was intentional.
Sure. What about Ali Sheedy?
I thought like they clearly were really trying to like reinforce the yuppie thing, which was very specific. Like obviously it doesn't translate now at all. It feels like
she looks like Barbara Bush now.
Yeah, like it's very strange and certainly not age appropriate, for a 22-year-old.
No.
But, we can maybe, if we're being forgiving, imagine that she is, again, being aspirational. So she's 22, but like
dressing 20 years older than that.
Dressing older, like working, at a firm and trying to like have a certain kind of yuppie exterior. But yeah, like she looks ridiculous.
I had to check Wikipedia to see what her job was.
Yeah.
It's so like
she's painting, right? Like, does she have?
She's an architect, I guess, but like, it's strange that her character is almost entirely defined by just. I mean, her character kind of like doesn't pass a Bechdel test. I mean, granted, she has conversations where she isn't just talking about men, but her character is almost entirely defined by just her relationship to one of the two males.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even when she is walking arm in arm with Mare Winningham down that like apparently pedestrian-free riverwalk, which like the only
that's the canal alongside the Potomac, I believe.
Which on a nice day nobody's going to be at it except for them, whatever, that they're still talking about Alec in that scene. It's weird because like I feel like she's pressuring Ali Sheedy to get married a little bit there too, even though she's incurring a lot of that pressure to get married from her family. And again, I do think that Howie is probably the person I identify with the most. Howie seemed like a pretty good choice. Like, he hangs out with her.
He doesn't have a lot of sex appeal.
He doesn't have a lot of sex appeal, but, like, he's a good long-term play, perhaps. And, like, he shows that he's willing to go with her to things with her friends, be that guy. Even, like, at the mansion where Emilio Estevez hosts the party. Do you know how uncomfortable it would be to lay with your girlfriend on a flight of stairs all night?
No. Horrible.
And can I just ask real quick, this was a job with a Korean gangster.
Yeah. And you're going to treat his house like this? Are you fucking kidding me?
Both Rob Lowe and Emilio Estevez are dead. Right? Like, Rob Lowe is dead when...
All right, this is how you would direct the film.
When Kim,
out at the end.
when Kim comes in to his apartment or his house or whatever it is, and Rob Lowe is in the jacuzzi with a nameless, faceless woman, as Alec put it once. That was a good line, where she's like, they're just nameless and faceless. And she's like, oh, now I feel better, or whatever it was. But why make it a gangster? A Korean gangster.
The only two people of color, and I watched the Siskel and Ebert clip, so this is why I keyed on it, I think. But the only two people of color are a black sex worker,
right,
and the Korean mafioso.
I did notice how, like, in the bar, like, it's so white. I just found a couple people of color in the bar, but like it was.
But they don't have lines.
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah. There is a.
It's like 2% of the people in the bar.
There is a black subservient aide that Alec gives a direction to in the campaign office, which would, I guess, make him part of a Republican campaign. Very, very, which is why we know it's a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make this character who is given these two not equipped guys jobs, but you make him a gangster, and then you never revisit that, right? You never come back to, like, there's no repercussions to that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that bus blew up as he's going to New York at the end. Kim finally got his revenge. There were just some very, very weird choices. That, namely, was one of them.
It makes you wonder if there were scenes that were cut.
With Kim?
Yeah, because it is such a strange choice to make it a gangster, because it could have been anyone, right? Anyone with money.
Korean businessman.
I could see scenes being cut as pertain to that.
Right, like trying to give it like more attention or whatever, and then being like, no.
Yeah, that subplot doesn't move the movie forward, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. We talked about how you would have seen this movie with it being rated R and guessed that you had your ways, or no one at the theater cared about 13-year-olds getting into this. Generally speaking, were your movie watching permission levels monitored by a parent closely or no?
Not at that point.
Okay, not by the time you hit like 12 or 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I might have even been taken there by an adult who like, you know.
And they bought the ticket and yeah.
Right. But I also, as we discussed last time, like I also had like, I would just buy a ticket to the PG movie playing at the same Cineplex.
So, throwing to the next clip, we asked what memories you had of St. Elmo's Fire past the red shawl. And you said...
It's the red shawl. It's like Schindler's List.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
That's where he got the idea.
Oh, for sure.
The red shawl is like literally the most iconic thing about it in a kind of Schindler's List kind of way.
Well, it was all black and white and then the shawl, right?
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. You'll see when you watch it.
I knew he stole that from somewhere.
It's dazzling. And her whole character is like really interesting. And, and I've read since that like she went to rehab during the movie or right after the movie. Like, she actually was suffering from addiction. So like, and maybe that is something I, picked up on, like it felt very real to me. And it was also really interesting to see Ali Sheedy as like because I, seen her in The Breakfast Club where she was the weirdo, right? And I loved her character. But then to see her immediately afterwards as this like put together like attorney, I think she was, but a put together professional, it was like, oh, I remember that. And mostly I remember the friendship between these characters.
Sure.
And there was something about that. Like when we were in high school and middle school, like we had this group of friends that we hoped to hold on to forever.
Sure.
And yet somehow, even at the time, knew we couldn't, right? Knew that we were all going to kind of like go on to our own colleges and our own lives. But, like we wanted to hold on to that. So to see, I guess, the sort of fantasy play out of this group of people who were friends in the way that we were friends, but with a lot more sex and cocaine. There was something like comforting about that, right? I want to say, like, I had forgotten about the attempted sexual assault, the attempted murder. I'd forgotten about the stalking, and I had forgotten about the suicide attempt by chilliness until the rewatch.
Sure. And I mean, those darker plot points are probably the reasons you were still able to like view this as warmly as you had in retrospect.
Right, as the fairy tale.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want my life to be like.
I mean, we've all seen the end of The Shining and know how Jack Torrance makes it, but it really is death by chilliness, death by shivering, death by ooh.
By discomfort, by physical discomfort.
You know what? It would have helped with some warmth in that apartment? A little hot neon.
That had already been taken. That had been seized.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they adequately dealt with her struggle with addiction?
Well, I think they addressed it, which certainly,
sure,
was not like there.
It wasn't glossed over.
There were consequences in other movies that I saw at that age. Like certainly like the John Hughes movies, you'd see characters behaving badly, and there weren't consequences for that behavior. And
she
so,
has
like
a job interview the next day. That's kind of the extent of it, right?
No, there are consequences. She lost all of her stuff. Like there were consequences, and so like I do think in maybe not the most kind of elegant or expanded or responsible way, they did sort of deal with the addiction in that sense. Yeah.
They didn't repossess that disembodied clown head, I noticed.
Because she bought that outright. That was not
that was paid for it in cash. She had her priorities, Sean.
That was a family heirloom.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. And she had to fight.
She came
for
from
it too.
a long line of clowns.
Like when they tried to take it, she had a big argument ready. Yeah, they had to cut that for time. But oh yeah,
she came from circus folk.
Those repo men that Emilio Estevez probably worked with. They were like hands up, like, hey guys, just let her have the clown head.
Yeah,
she's gonna need it to see the light in life.
How did Ali Sheedy's playing against the types to which you were accustomed to seeing her play now?
I still found it distracting. And I've seen her in other movies, obviously. Like the first one I saw her in that I remember was War Games, right? Mm-hmm. Where she had like the long hair and was like the, maybe potential girlfriend, kind of turned girlfriend to Matthew Broderick. And I always think that she had such a great kind of naturalistic performance style that I still really, really like. I thought it was interesting in the Andrew McCarthy documentary how she was the one like living in this small apartment in New York City. Mm-hmm. Right, with this kind of beaten up dresser where everybody else was in these like Malibu mansions. I was distracted because her hair is the same as in the Breakfast Club. I think if they could have just put that in a pony or styled it a little differently, like it's not as messy, right, as in the Breakfast Club, but it's the same length. So to me that was distracting because she just looked so different except from the neck up, and then she looked the same. But I've always liked her as an actor.
Oh, for sure. Same.
Yeah, like she plays, and I'm not going to say plays the same character because, and maybe she does. And that's what is a little distracting because it's about her clothes. Like that's how you kind of understand she's different. But she kind of plays, I think, herself, right? Mm-hmm. A version of herself that is pretty close to herself. And it's very naturalistic and honest in a way that I think plays really well on screen. And I wish that she still did some of that.
So we talked People's Sexiest Man Alive quite a bit. The men of the Brat Pack were included in the 1985 down list discussion. You know how those issues work. There's little mini groupings or names that aren't explicitly named the Sexiest Man Alive.
It sounds like you know a lot more about this than I do.
No, I just had to look it up because I just listened to our pre-interview and I was editing, and so I fact checked kind of.
Josh was also a runner-up in 2003.
Oh, congratulations!
Back in my young fit days.
Down the list a little bit, but the name
way
is
down
still...
the list. Way down. I was in the glossary. So Tom Selleck did not win People's Sexiest Man Alive, but the list didn't start until 1985.
Right.
So the peak Magnum years where he presumably would have won, because Mark Harmon was 1986.
Yeah. Wow.
The peak Selleck years would have been the first half of the 80s. I think we can all safely assume he would have won.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of actors missed out on that goddamn 85 because we have no Cary Grant, we have no Gregory Peck, we have no Brando really? Probably would have won.
This is what you're thinking, that they might make that list in 85?
Well, Buster Keaton certainly would have got it.
Sean Connery won in 89.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to guess who the 1985 People's Sexiest Man Alive was?
So Harmon was 86.
Was it Rob Lowe?
Yeah.
Was it?
Rob Lowe. Oh. No, Rob Lowe has never won. Lowe, he's shockingly never won. It's apparently his son outed him and said that it's something that really bothers him.
Oh, of course it does.
Was it Ted Danson?
No.
Was it TV or film?
Think film.
Not Tom Cruise.
No. Tom Cruise won, I think, in 90. He won for the Days of Thunder year.
I don't know if I'm going to get this.
Is this age-wise? Over 25? Under 25?
He'd have been close to 25 at that point.
Okay.
Probably, maybe a little older, but not much.
Okay.
Not a Brat Packer, though, and not American.
Oh, not American. So English.
Not necessarily.
Australian?
French?
Maybe.
Paul Hogan?
Oh, wait. Is it one of the Bee Gees or something? Is it
no.
or
he's a film actor. Actor.
But an Australian in his 20s in 1985. Come on, Sean McGrath, you got this.
It's Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Beyond Thunderdome came out this year too, which I just watched for the first time and doesn't work.
Yeah, I imagine he was probably a repeat winner as well.
I don't think he was.
Really?
Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and there's one other that I'm missing.
Okay.
I wish I didn't know all this. Hopefully I'll forget it.
It's your curse.
But I just looked down the whole goddamn list. Anyway. So, for the last clip, we asked you what your expectations were for your return to St. Elmo's Fire, and you responded as follows.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried that it's not going to live up to what it was when I watched it as a kid, which is frankly why I have not watched it since, right?
Sure.
Because it was, to me, like such a kind of like, I mean, the soundtrack, come on, you guys. Like, right? It was pretty.
I love
pretty
that. I
fucking great.
love the John Parr, right? Is that
I don't
who it
know,
is?
but
St.
I
Elmo's
had
Fire,
this-
I love that song.
The title song,
Yes.
yeah, John Parr.
Yeah. And again, like I individually love those actors so much. I worry about revisiting it and maybe seeing them make choices that are kind of icky in today's environment, you know? Like again, some of these hookups, I think this whole underpants thing that Sean is into, like that, I feel like is I think that might bump for me. Yeah. So I think one of the reasons that I'm defending it is because I really thought the rewatch was going to be incredibly painful.
Sure.
And it was less painful than I thought.
Yeah.
And I think that I noticed what worked more. Just because I was so surprised that like anything worked.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you feel like characters made choices that struck you as gross today that wouldn't have been seen as such then?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And again, I had repressed like all of the felonies.
Yeah.
Except for the
of which there were quite a few.
Yeah. So, yeah, but overall, it was definitely better than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm. Which character played the worst to you now?
Oh, Rob Lowe.
Okay.
Yeah.
More than Emilio.
Yeah.
I
think Rob Lowe does the worst thing in the film.
I mean, Emilio's pretty cringy, but Rob Lowe, again, to have kind of the tearful goodbye from his 6 closest friends, where they all pretty much have a good sense of who he is and what he's capable of, speaks to really like the tone that this movie is hitting hard, which is like nothing can break a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Rob Lowe's pretty deplorable.
Except for maybe moving to New York. Moving to New York might break a friendship.
Moving to New York, I mean, that I just kind of felt like he's kind of on a terminal trajectory at that point. Because he's not going to have these people.
Well, you move to New York to die.
Yeah.
No, he'll be dead in 2 years. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like within the world of this story.
He's not going to have the safety net of these 6 people who have been
enabling him.
Yeah. And living with the liability of his choices. Like he gets them all kind of thrown out of the bar, which is like a very minor thing, but like something that when it happens a lot, you're like, okay, I need to assess my friendship. He had that great line too, and I'm being sarcastic when I say that. As he gets kicked out of the bar, which he is headlining, by the way, kind of like ruins his bandmates. Like we don't see what happens with his bandmates, right? Because they're little people, but he's just fucked their whole night because he started a fight with his wife's boyfriend, I guess. Mm-hmm. But he has that weird line about if you have sons, just castrate them now so that they can't, like knock somebody up.
Yep.
Because then those are the ones who are really fucked. And it was just like, oh my.
Everything about that line is problematic. Like you could break it down into like 4 problematic statements.
But to be that angry because men are the ones, right? Like men's lives are ruined by pregnant wives and pregnant girls. Like
by not wearing a condom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
those
it's not
are the
his
ones.
fault at all that she got knocked up.
Right.
He can wrap that up.
Yeah, well, they ended that little moment with Emilio Estevez kind of going, ba-dum-bum-bump, or something poignant.
I recently found out that you can see a personal dietitian covered by insurance. There's this platform called Nourish that will match you with a dietitian based on whatever your concerns are, whether that's weight loss, eating disorders, autoimmune conditions, or something else. They're actually a network with major insurance providers, so most patients pay $0 out of pocket. 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, moving on to picking up the scraps. Is there anything that we've missed that any of y'all want to talk about?
I mean, I talked about my decapitated clown.
Okay.
Yeah, you hit that.
I hit that. That was my main scrap. Okay, good.
Okay. So the exterior for St. Elmo's Bar is on the back lot at Universal and is right around the corner from the Back to the Future courthouse. So we're basically in Hill Valley there.
No, I've been on that backlot tour.
Oh, yeah. I used to work on it. I worked on The Voice for a while, and so I've been all over that backlot.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely did a good transition from, like, real Georgetown. Like, real establishing shots. And then, like, it changed. And if you aren't paying attention and you aren't, like, weirdly obsessive like we are, you're probably not going to think otherwise. Right. But that was so backlotty. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I bought it 100%.
Yeah, but I do like the Georgetown B-roll. It really put me there.
Well, and they did shoot some location stuff in DC.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, obviously, Mare Winningham and Sheedy are walking. Yeah, they're walking down that canal along the Potomac. There are exterior shots that they're shooting in Georgetown. I know they shot in a bar in Georgetown at one point.
Just the fact that I, like, as a 12-year-old, grokked that it took place in Washington, D.C. to the point where I remembered it when we were discussing it, right? A couple days ago.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's kind of amazing because it's really not the story. It really could take place anywhere, right?
Right.
Except for maybe like working for the politician, which there are other ways to kind of have that character be dickish.
Yeah.
In my mind, this was Boston prior to revisiting this.
Okay.
I would have lost money on it being Georgetown.
I obviously remembered it was Georgetown, but Georgetown University wouldn't let them shoot on campus. All of the Georgetown University shots are actually University of Maryland College Park.
It sounds like somebody read the script.
Well, the only time you see Georgetown campus, they did actually read the script. They were like, "Fuck no, you're not shooting here."
The character of Billy would never have been admitted.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We're meant to believe that he graduated. Have a hard time buying that.
It's always
the only time you see Georgetown is from across the Potomac. In that long establishing shot of Georgetown from across the Potomac where they're shooting like from the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Because they can film them because they're not on campus. Clever.
Yes. But yeah, otherwise they mostly shot in California. They had 16 days of production in California. Most of it was in LA on lots, and then they shot the snow scenes in Truckee up by Tahoe. Okay, major gripes. Chelsea. Okay.
All right, I have one. The saxophone. Several gripes are on the saxophone. My main gripe, it's never in a case. Yeah. Like he's got it on the strap and he just wears, like he literally gets on a Greyhound bus with his saxophone on a strap. And those straps are meant for playing the saxophone, not traveling with the saxophone. Like, right? Like he's going to New York City to like make a living as a sax player, but doesn't know enough. Like your sax gets dinged up, if you just have it over your shoulder completely loose. Nobody does that. It's in a case, always.
And cases are not expensive.
No, right. If you're not playing it, you put it in a case and you wear the strap when you're playing the sax. But I think clearly, and they must have known that. And I think it was just this note of like, well, who cares? We want to make sure that we, like show the sax. Like viewers aren't going to maybe recognize it if he just has
Billy
it in his little case.
Lost that case, right? Like Billy is such a fuck up.
He's lost a couple.
He just can't do it anymore. I mean, there's a point too. I think it's like,
oh my God, are you apologizing?
I'm just saying he's such a fuck up that like How many cases have been bought and lost? He has lost his everything. He needs things strapped to him, which is why, like, his, they say, like, I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. That's why he has to wear a necktie around his fucking head.
Right.
But at one point, like, I think the
whole thing of like, I'm going off to the city to make a living as a
but like,
sax
yeah,
player.
and like that first
well,
night at St. Elmo's Fire when they're all there and he's attempting to pick up like the local tale at the, the strange at the bar, she's playing his sax for laughs. Like, as the music kind of crescendos and we end that scene, we see her like pretending to play. Like, that's his livelihood.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only thing that's giving him Coke money. In addition to like loans from Mare Winningham.
Loans. Going through her purse.
Do you think, he pays back, half or something when she's putting her apartment together. But also, like, maybe he thinks that they're carte blanche after giving her the gift of his Rob Lowe, of his skin sacks.
I was literally just about to say that.
She's gonna be pregnant like 2 months later.
Because his sax is his dick, and he like it's a euphemism for his dick, and that's why he has a kid, because he can't wrap it up. So the sax is just his exposed penis every time we see it.
Oh wow.
There we go.
So like
he can't put it in
I wasn't giving the screenplay enough credit.
Rob Lowe. Billy is so fertile that Mare Winningham is pre-pregnant. She is pregnant prior to sex with Billy. That's how fucking fertile Billy is and how potent his seed is.
Well, you can see why he's always complaining about that then.
That's a good gripe. Yeah, I appreciate it. I did not catch the caseless sex.
So, speaking of the sax, it I think is magic, because I'm pretty sure that's an alto that we're getting the sound of. But this is not an alto saxophone.
This whole movie is falling apart.
I don't buy any of it now.
Yeah. Sean, do you have a gripe?
Yes, over kind of...
Yeah. Did you have a problem with this film, Sean?
My one problem is how reckless hospital staff is with the schedules and private information of their doctors.
HIPAA wasn't a law until 96. I looked it up because I had a problem with that.
But common sense is available way before that. And like, he does admit to stealing the hospital schedule at one point, but he tracks her to her home somehow, or finds out that information, stays in the rain, follows her to that swanky party where he shows up, and we have like really the only time in the movie where we have POV cam, where we're like the camera's kind of walking through the party and people are sneering and looking down on completely damp Emilio Estevez. And then when she asks him, how are you doing, or what are you doing here? He says, I'm obsessed. Thank you very much. She then invites him to her home, which is, a little, that's a problem.
Why?
But the roommate sees how fucking weird he is at that point. She then gives the information away as well. Terrible roommate.
She does say she hates her, but...
She does hate her, but I don't think she wants her dead.
That's still fucked up.
Because here's the line that Emilio Estevez says to the roommate. She says, why should I give you that information? And he says, I'm not responsible for what I do to you. That's why.
Serial killer shit.
This is a protagonist. This is one of the Brat Pack. This is who we're rooting for. But also...
Then he gets his win.
Yeah, he wins. He gets the Andrew Lincoln walking away after giving the cue card caroling from Love Actually moment. Yeah, hospital staff. When he's calling them at the party at Gangster Kim's house and saying, like, where did she go? When is she available? Like, you just hang up on this guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was going to kiss her and that everything was going to be okay. I didn't know that was coming.
He gets a big swell from the score, like just, oh, this is the triumphant moment. And you're like, what the fuck?
See, I didn't know, Josh, that he was going to kiss her, though. That he was going to, like, grab her without her consent and lay a big one on her. If I had known that, then, of course, it justifies the means.
And he drives off, like, fucking jazzed.
I just think for young men, boys...
That's a bad example.
At all. And this is certainly not the only 80s movie that does this.
Far from it.
You should not stand outside of a woman's house with a boombox either. But
that's at least from a safe distance, and they were in a relationship already.
Yeah, this sends a message after a date. And, at one point I was criticizing Andie MacDowell for, like, letting work know the restaurant that she was going to be at so she could take a call at the table.
Well, I feel like that was let me get out of this date by saying that I have to, I needed it.
Yeah.
This is the brush off move that you had to have pre-cell phone.
Right. But don't tell
I think that was normal, like pre-cell phone, is that, if you were a doctor, like a journalist, or like anybody who might take an important call.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You leave your number.
It seems strange that he has the phone at his table, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has the phone brought over so he can get advice on the wine list.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you do not smell the cork. That's a fucking...
Yeah.
That is an outdated thing. That is... Smell the wine, don't smell the cork. Okay, that's my one problem.
My gripe is tangentially related to your gripe, Sean. The hospital also has their large naked men.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have them on lockdown very well. They're just wandering the halls of this hospital fully nude.
Not even the gown open.
No, fully nude.
Mm-hmm. Great way to start.
How would we fix this movie for a modern film audience? Starting with Chelsea. Or is it perfect?
I don't know, why fix it for a modern film audience like that.
If we were remaking it today.
Yeah, well, why remake it? It just feels like it lives in its moment.
Okay. So don't touch it. Leave it be. Never bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in a sense, like St. Elmo's Fire, extrapolated out, is a little bit like the Friends sitcom. It's these like good-looking, young, Brat Packy adjacent group of actors who are kind of incestuous within their group and getting into hijinks and various things. Obviously, like, the stakes are played differently on a show like that, but like St. Elmo's Fire has taken on many forms, and will continue to take on many forms, where you have a co-ed group where there is some romantic chemistry between certain dynamics within that group. Like, that plays out on Euphoria. That plays out on most shows about students in high school and college. Like, having a romantic comedy with 6 or 7 people, we've seen that and we'll continue to see that a lot.
Can I just interrupt? Because every show you just mentioned is a TV show, is an episodic television show, and not a film.
Right.
Where you can do more in terms of, creating different dynamics and different arcs. It's rougher to put it in 90 minutes.
Sure, but to me, I think this, obviously, I'm not the first one saying this, but this draws comparisons drew comparisons at the time most to The Big Chill.
Right.
And it was called The Little Chill. They jokingly kind of called this and The Breakfast Club The Little Chill. Obviously, it's different points in time, but I think The Big Chill, there's something... The characters are still complex and the relationships to one another are still complex, but I think the characters in The Big Chill are ultimately more redeemable, more likable.
Well, it's like a better movie.
It was a better film, yes. Yeah.
But I don't think... I don't know. In revisiting both recently, there's a smugness with The Big Chill that I really hate. And that I didn't feel that here, in a sense. Them all coming together for this wake and having these stakes and having these moments. We have Kevin Kline dancing and various, moments of levity. But that movie in a weird way feels way heavier than St. Elmo's Fire.
Well, that's because they're going to Billy Hicks's funeral.
Right. Well, and that's the big difference, right, between The Big Chill and The Little Chill is that in The Little Chill, they're right out of school. And The Big Chill is 10 years later, whatever it is. And so the tension in The Big Chill is the difference between who these characters are now, right? And who they were when they were in this tight group, and that kind of evolution and the complications of all of the relationships.
I don't know how you'd fix this movie for today. I think you just have to make them somewhat likable.
Somewhat likable, maybe a little more diverse.
Yeah. You would definitely, you wouldn't have an all-white cast of 7 characters now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'd have to be something more to draw you in, because right now, the 2 most sympathetic characters are still kind of like sad sacks and like almost unsympathetic because they're I think seen through the screenplay as being so almost borderline pathetic. Anyway, so saving graces. What were your favorite moment or elements of the film, starting with Chelsea?
Well, the red shawl held up.
Okay.
I definitely, I've always wanted one, and I did get one in Mexico when I was in my 20s that was completely based on my memory of Demi Moore in that red shawl. So like I feel like I definitely need another one now.
Did it have foxtails adhered to it, or whatever the hell those things were? There was like, she had some kind of fur, like accents to what she wears.
Well, I feel like we see her in the shawl a second time and she doesn't have that, so I think that's a separate item.
I think they are too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was in Chinatown, and there was things kind of on display, a lot of knockoff stuff on blankets that people were selling. And I saw some red shawls, and I was like, Chelsea needs to get over here.
Are you going to keep an eye out for Chelsea? Track one down, go down to Canal Street and see
if
I want it in that particular color. It's such a strong red.
Yeah. If Chelsea's walking down Canal with a red shawl, then my whole world would go colorless except for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. That's what the shawl does.
And then I'd live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Shaw aside, I mean, I don't know. I like, very small part, but I like seeing Martin Balsam in this.
Yeah.
Which you're kind of like, holy shit, it's Martin Balsam as Mare Winningham's dad. I liked the scenes with her family. I thought were like Billy being a fucking, being Billy at the table. Her weird mom.
Yeah.
The doting father that's like trying to get her to live this kind of anachronistic life. There's components there that I liked in that character. Like, we don't really see any of the other characters with their parents. I would have liked to have seen some aspects of that. Everybody feels very, very detached at 22 or whatever from their folks, except for her. But yeah, I don't know. I like seeing kind of a little bit of old Hollywood. I also recognized the bartender, but I couldn't place him at St. Elmo's Fire.
It's Ryder Strong's dad from Boy Meets World.
That is definitely not where I know him from, but
yeah, old Hollywood.
But
this is the first movie that he's in, actually.
And okay, a saving grace is like, I was right to forever remember the control top underwear that Mare Winningham wears. Like, it wasn't just like an idle, like, oh, they're just normal underwear. Like, no, there's a snapping sound effect on thigh, on skin. Oh boy. I mean, like, just like if there was ever a physical metaphor that, hey, Billy, here's maybe one person who you shouldn't try and fuck, it's that scene.
I think my favorite part is the iconic sex scene in the bar before the brawl, but like the Halloween party, the lead up to the brawl is fun, I think.
Saxophone was so irresistible in 85.
Yeah.
Like how he gets those women, like, I mean, within the movie, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, people are losing their minds.
I wonder if that's how it was in real life.
I couldn't go into the bars in 85, but like, those co-eds are like, yes, but he also looks like Rob Lowe too.
Sure.
So, and he's sweaty, and he's like, there's a lot of skin. What's he wearing? Like a bat? What the hell was that? It's like this bat print.
I don't know what that shirt was.
It's not why the women were interested in him.
No,
the shirt.
There's a necktie. So Chelsea, you returned to St. Elmo's Fire after all these years of trepidation on account of not wanting to taint a fond childhood memory. Are you glad you finally rewatched it?
Oh yeah, because I never would have. Except for this podcast. I literally.
Do you think you'll watch it again?
No, I don't. I don't feel the need.
No, okay.
And I really have questions for you, Josh, because you said that you watch it all the time, which I find interesting.
I've seen it quite a few times.
You have so many criticisms of it.
I like watching bad movies, and I've seen this. Jackie threw it on right after we watched Bratz. That's when I watched it last. And it was just as bad as I remembered, but there's something oddly, like, I can throw it on and be like, Jesus Christ, just like, but like do something else while it's on.
But you're not putting it on because it's bad, because we've talked a lot about bad movies that you just don't like, that you don't want to watch again. Like, this is something, there's something familiar.
There's something train wrecky about it that's interesting to watch, but from almost like a social anthropology kind of way, where you're just like, I can't believe this fucking thing happened. And there's something interesting to me that's not because of the quality of the film.
But there's something comforting that I don't know, that brings you back in your adulthood multiple times to have this on as
it's amusing to have on because you're just constantly like, I can't like, everything Emilio Estevez's character does is just like, I can't fucking believe someone thought this was like.
See, I think the problem is you watched it too many times. And that's what I think the problem is.
Sean's just watching it for the first time. I think Sean and I have most of the same problems.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, I'm not responsible for what I do to you if we have to watch this movie again.
We will not have to watch this movie again. Now, before we say goodbye to listeners at home, where can listeners find you, Chelsea?
Oh, they can find me at chelseacain.com, which will link you to all of my socials.
Right on.
Perfect.
Well, Chelsea, thank you for subjecting your childhood and your fond memories of St. Elmo's Fire to the scrutiny of the Unkind Rewind.
Don't do cocaine, kids, and mostly don't buy furniture on credit.
Yes.
Your hair looks a lot better on this watching of St. Elmo's Fire, Chelsea.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, Chelsea.
It's lovely to see you.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yep, yes, you were responsible for my rewatching of this as well.
Oh, I'll hang on to that. And I like your red t-shirt, by the way.
All right. Yeah, I wore red just for you.
You've just listened to another installment of the Unkind Rewind podcast, mining and potentially ruining your childhood for content, one film at a time. Unkind Rewind is a Munchcast production and can be ingested wherever you listen to podcasts and on the Unkind Rewind YouTube channel. Music for this and every other episode of Unkind Rewind was composed by Divorcio Suave. Rate, review, like, and subscribe to Unkind Rewind on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Good Pods. Links to all our social media accounts are in our show notes, but you'll find us as at Unkind Rewind Pod on nearly every social media platform, all of which are available at our website, unkindrewind.com. If you have a question, concern, complaint, or feedback, you can email the podcast at unkindrewindpod@gmail.com or call into our call-in line, area code 507-479-6440, and leave a message that can be played on air. Fans should join the Munchcast Discord to discuss this or any other episode of the Unkind Rewind with like-minded people. This dialogue may just make it into a future episode of the pod. The Unkind Rewind Patreon will be coming soon, so start squirreling that pocket change away. Thank you for listening to another Unkind Rewind.
If you have health insurance, you might be able to see a personal dietitian for $0 out of pocket. Nourish connects you with a dietitian that fits your needs, covered by your insurance. Nourish accepts hundreds of insurance plans, and 94% of patients pay $0 out of pocket. Meet with your dietitian online and message them anytime through the Nourish app. With hundreds of 5-star reviews from real patients, you know you're in good hands. Find your dietitian at usenourish.com. That's usenourish.com.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No